Welcome to the Unveiled Epoch Echoes channel. Today, we're diving deep into an unexplored historical mystery in the shadowy corridors of time, where the whispers of forgotten truths echo through the ages. There lies a tale shrouded in enigma, a life that bridged the mundane and the arcane, born in the bustling heart of Paris on a crisp November day in 1694, entered the world not as an ordinary child, but as one destined to unravel the veils of deception that had cloaked humanity for centuries. His birth itself was wrapped in a subtle mystery, for while official records pinned it to November 21, he often whispered to close confidence that he had truly arrived on February 20, a date that aligned with ancient celestial patterns, hinting at a cosmic alignment, perhaps orchestrated by unseen forces. His father, a stern notary in the Comps, and his mother, who passed when he was just 7, seemed like pillars of middle-class normalcy, yet hidden letters discovered in dusty archives years later suggested his true sire might have been an enigmatic officer named a wandering songwriter, whose verses carried echoes of forbidden lore from the lost libraries of Alexandria. As a boy, Young attached himself to his godfather, the freethinker whose eyes gleamed with the fire of hidden knowledge. This enigmatic figure introduced him to the courtesan Ninon in her twilight years at 84, where she shared tales of alchemical secrets and ancient pacts that bound the fates of kings and philosophers alike. These early encounters planted seeds of curiosity in the boy's mind, seeds that would grow into a relentless quest for truths buried beneath layers of religious dogma and royal tyranny. The streets of Paris in those days, with the remnants of Louis XIV's iron rule, a time when famine and war scarred the land and religious persecutions cast long shadows over the innocent, yet amid this chaos, found solace in the whispers of the wind, carrying stories from distant eras, tales of Atlantis's sunken wisdom and the enigmatic riddles Sphinx that no scholar dared to solve. At the Jesuit College of Louis Grand, where he was sent for education, the young honed his intellect under the watchful eyes of priests, whose teachings of faith clashed with his burgeoning the classical literature. They fed him, sparked a love for words, but the religious doctrines only fueled his mockery. In hidden corners of the library, he stumbled upon forbidden tomes, smuggled from the ruins of ancient Rome, manuscripts that spoke of mystery cults and the rites where initiates glimpsed the divine through veiled ceremonies. These discoveries ignited a fire within him, a desire to expose the hypocrisies that chained men's minds. Leaving school, his father's push toward law, instead diving into the libertine circles of the temple, a den of poets and philosophers, where free-thinking flowed like wine from goblets etched with symbols of forgotten gods. Here, he sharpened his talent for satire, crafting verses that pierced the veil of authority like daggers in the night. But such boldness came at a cost. During the regency of his mocking epigrams about the regent's scandals reached the wrong ears, and in 1717 he was cast into the grim depths of the Bastille, that infamous fortress of stone and secrets, where the air was thick with the moans of forgotten prisoners. Yet even in this darkness, mystery unfolded, for in a neighboring cell he encountered a shadowy figure, a masked inmate who claimed descent from the Knights Templar, whispering through the walls of ancient treasures hidden beneath Paris catacombs, maps to lost knowledge that could shatter the foundations of church and state. These clandestine conversations transformed his imprisonment into a crucible of enlightenment. Nearly a year later released, but unbroken, he emerged with a new resolve and a new name, Voltaire, an anagram perhaps of, but some say, a code drawn from ancient Latin, invoking the winds of change. His tragedy premiered to acclaim in 1718, positioning him as the heir to his dramatic throne. Yet beneath the applause he wove threads of subversion into his works. His epics celebrated Henry IV's tolerance, but hid allusions to Pythagorean mysteries, where souls reincarnated across epochs, carrying eternal truths. The courts brought pensions and prestige, but Voltaire's deist leanings and salon debates scandalized the pious. He championed reason as the key to unlocking humanity's chains, influenced by whispers of English liberty He learned the tongue to devour empiricism, seeing in it echoes of ancient Stoic wisdom. A fateful quarrel with the Chevalier, a noble who scorned his bourgeois roots, led to a brutal beating and another stint in the Bastille. But this time exile beckoned, and in May 1726 Voltaire set sail for England, a land of fog-shrouded mysteries, where the veil between science and sorcery thinned there in the salons of London. He mingled with giants like Pope Swift and Berkeley, but it was the Quaker's quiet tolerance and Newton's gravitational revelations that reshaped his soul. Delving into forbidden archives at the Royal Society, he uncovered manuscripts linking Newton's optics to ancient Egyptian prisms used in pyramid rituals to harness the sun's hidden energies. These discoveries twisted his thinking, infusing his philosophy with a blend of empirical science and mystical wonder, the ideas of liberty, where men could think freely without fear of inquisitors' tolerance, that echoed the harmonious counsels of lost civilizations and scientific inquiry that peeled back the universe's secrets like layers of an onion, became his creed. Yet not all was serene. A hidden rivalry with Bolingbroke led to a plot twist when Voltaire discovered his patron's secret involvement in a Jacobite conspiracy. Whispers of ancient Celtic druidic rites intertwined with political intrigue, forcing him to shift alliances to the Whigs. Returning to France in 1729, with a fortune amassed through shrewd speculations, he positioned England as a beacon in his work that smuggled in critiques of French absolutism under the guise of travel tales. But the book's attack on Pascal's penitence in of earthly happiness through arts and sciences ignited fury. An arrest warrant forced him to flee to the Of with the brilliant his lover and intellectual equal, whose passion for metaphysics rivaled his own. There, in the Champagne countryside, they transformed the estate into a sanctuary of discovery, installing a laboratory where they experimented with fire and light, seeking the alchemical transmutation that ancient hermetics promised. Their liaison was a whirlwind of luxury and study, interrupted by journeys to the Low Countries. After his poem praised worldly pleasures too boldly in this haven, Voltaire pennied a play on the Spanish conquest of Peru, weaving in themes of moral superiority, but hiding critiques of colonial brutality as echoes of Rome's fall to barbarian hordes. Yet deeper mysteries lurked. Translated Newton, while Voltaire's La Newton popularized the English sage, but in their biblical exegeses, they uncovered discrepancies, hinting at forged passages inserted by medieval monks to suppress Gnostic truths from the deserts of ancient. These revelations fueled his growing criticism of religious fanaticism, seeing it as a chain forged in the fires of ignorance. As the years unfolded, correspondence with the Great of Prussia, a prince rebelling against his father's tyranny, drew Voltaire into royal intrigues. During the War of the Austrian Succession, he embarked secret missions to Berlin, rallying to French causes. But beneath the diplomacy lay a hidden layer, shared tales of Rosicrucian secrets, alchemical gold-making rituals passed down from Renaissance mages that promised eternal youth. Plot twists abounded when Voltaire's services earned him court at Versailles as historiographer and academician. Yet Louis XV's disdain and Catholic factions' hostility simmered his plays like triumphed, but his portrayal of religious imposture was, after initial success, amassing wealth through financier Joseph. He began a liaison with his niece Denise, adding personal complexity. But the greatest twist came in 1748, at where he discovered affair with the poet Saint Lambert. Her subsequent death in childbirth left him shattered, wandering Parisian streets, calling her name in grief, haunted by visions of her spirit, revealing one last secret, a hidden manuscript in detailing Atlantis's philosophical legacy that she had decoded from ancient Greek fragments. This loss propelled him into a nomadic phase, but soon he found refuge at near Geneva in 1759, transforming a modest estate into a bustling haven for intellectuals, yet held its own mysteries. Excavations for his gardens unearthed Roman, inscribed with enigmatic symbols, linking to Mithraic cults, underground temples, where initiates sought enlightenment through bull-slaying rites. These discoveries infused his later works with deeper layers. Here he penned, in 1759, Satirical Odyssey, where the naive protagonist traversed disasters questioning optimism, but woven in were fictional hidden elements like encounters with a utopia echoing Plato's Atlantis, where ancient wisdom preserved harmony without gods or kings. Climax, in a Turkish garden, symbolized cultivation of one's own mind. But Voltaire infused it with a twist. The old Turk revealed a forgotten truth, a subterranean library, holding scrolls from the Library of Alexandria, smuggled out before its burning, containing formulas for universal tolerance and scientific mastery from Voltaire, became a crusader defending justice in cases like the affair, where a Protestant was wrongly executed for his sons. Murder. Voltaire's campaigns exposed the fanaticism's horrors rallying Europe to the cause of free thought. His letters thundered against political absolutism, advocating enlightened despotism. But secretly he corresponded with a shadowy network of philosophers, perhaps descendants of the Illuminati. Visions of a world unbound by ancient tyranny's tension rose as age crept upon him. Threats from censors and rivals mounted, culminating in a dramatic confrontation when a forged letter surfaced accusing him of heresy, forcing him to burn incriminating documents in a midnight ritual under stars. Yet this climax revealed a satisfying truth. The ashes fertilized his final push for reform, influencing thinkers across continents. As his health waned, the pull of Paris grew irresistible, and in 1778 he returned to the city of his birth, amid adulation from crowds who saw him as the Enlightenment's beacon. Yet mystery lingered in his final days. Whispers of a secret meeting with Benjamin Franklin, fresh from America's revolutionary shores, where they exchanged symbols of liberty, perhaps tying back to ancient Masonic rites. From Egypt's pyramids, Voltaire passed on May 30, 1778. At 83, his deathbed, attended by priests, he slyly, but his spirit endured as a central figure of the Enlightenment. His legacy, a torch illuminating the path from superstition to reason, forgotten truths that reshaped the world, inspiring revolutions, and the quest for knowledge that echoes through time. A man who danced with mysteries and emerged victorious, leaving humanity richer in wisdom and freer in thought. In the fading twilight of Voltaire's legacy, where the echoes of his wit still danced like fireflies over the Seine, a new chapter unfolded, one that history books dared not whisper, for it delved into the veiled realms beyond his mortal coil. As his body was interred in secret haste to evade the church's wrath, spirited away to the abbey of his spirit, it seemed refused to slumber. Legends persisted among the Parisian underbelly of ghostly apparitions, at where servants swore they heard quills scratching paper, dead of night, inscribing treatises on eternal liberty that materialized come dawn. These spectral writings hinted at unfinished business, a quest Voltaire had begun in life to unearth the ultimate forgotten truth, the lost codex of Hypatia, the Alexandrian philosopher, whose murder by fanatics symbolized the triumph of ignorance over reason. Whispers from ancient times suggested this codex held formulas for harnessing the mind's power to reshape reality itself, blending Platonic ideals with quantum precursors that modern science would later echo, born from Hypatia's fusion of mathematics and mysticism. It was said to have been smuggled through Byzantine shadows into the hands of Renaissance humanists, only to vanish during the sack of Constantinople. Voltaire, in his later years, had pieced together clues from his correspondences with and the encyclopedists who shared fragments decoded from Masonic archives. But the trail went cold until his deathbed visions, where Hypatia herself appeared in a dream, revealing a map etched in the stars aligning over Paris on the solstice of 1779. This revelation spurred a cadre of his disciples, a secret society known as the Hidden Light, to embark on a perilous journey across Europe. Their leader, a young scholar named Voltaire's unacknowledged, from who had absorbed the master's teachings like a sponge soaking rain, was no ordinary acolyte, orphaned in the famines of Louis XV's reign. He had stumbled upon as a boy begging scraps, only to be taken in by Voltaire himself, who saw in his piercing blue eyes the spark of ancient wisdom, reincarnated under Voltaire's tutelage, mastered languages, philosophy, and the art of subtle subversion. But hidden from even the master was own mystery, a birthmark on his palm, shaped like the ankh, the Egyptian symbol of life, which glowed faintly during thunderstorms, hinting at a lineage tied to the pharaohs. Priests, as the society set forth their path, wound through the mist-shrouded Alps where avalanches concealed. Forgotten monasteries, in one such abbey perched on a cliff like an eagle's nest, they discovered a hermit, an aged Jesuit defrocked for heresy, who guarded a relic, a shard of papyrus from Hypatia's era, inscribed with riddles that spoke of a guardian in the shadows of Venice. Tension, built as betrayals loomed, for among their ranks lurked a spy, a double agent from the Inquisition's remnants, desperate to suppress the codex's emergence. This infiltrator, a sly figure named with a scar across his cheek, from a all over forbidden books, fed misinformation, leading the group into ambushes amid Venice's labyrinthine canals, where gondolas glided like silent spectres under moonlit bridges. Here, in a flooded crypt beneath Mark's basilica, they uncovered the next clue, a mosaic floor depicting the tree of life from Kabbalistic lore, but twisted with alchemical symbols pointing to a hidden vault in the Vatican itself. The plot twisted whence true allegiance was revealed during a midnight confrontation. The Rialto Bridge swords clashed, and secrets spilled, as disarmed him only to learn was no villain, but a reluctant pawn blackmailed by cardinals who feared the Codex would dismantle their dogma. In a moment of mercy, spared him, forging an unlikely alliance that shifted the tide. Now, united, they infiltrated Rome, disguising themselves as pilgrims during the Jubilee. Yet the city streets teemed with fervor, pilgrims chanting hymns that masked their stealthy advance. The Vatican vaults deep underground with the weight of centuries, forbidden texts stacked like bones in a catacomb guarded by Swiss halberdiers whose vigilance waned under the society's clever diversions. A fabricated fire in the Sistine Chapel drew them away, allowing to slip into the shadows. There, amid dusty tomes, he found it, the Codex, bound in leather etched with Hypatia's seal, its pages yellowed, but intact, revealed profound truths, equations that bridged matter and spirit, philosophies advocating universal tolerance where science and faith coexisted. Not as foes, but as dance partners in the cosmos's grand ballet. Yet as climax approached, alarms blared, the cardinal's trap sprung, enclosing the vault in iron bars, sacrificed himself, holding off pursuers with a hidden dagger, allowing to escape through a secret passage once used by popes. Emerging into the Roman dawn, clutched the Codex, his heart pounding with revelation, returning to he deciphered its wisdom it in clandestine salons that birthed the French revolutions, ideals, the forgotten truths of ancient times now flowed into the modern world, inspiring liberty, equality, fraternity, but with a mystical undercurrent that infused art, literature, and science for generations. The mystery resolved in a satisfying hush, as in his old age pennied a memoir buried in gardens for future seekers to discover. Voltaire's quest lived on, eternally weaving the threads of history into an unbreakable tapestry of enlightenment and wonder. In the hushed aftermath of his triumphant return to where the Codex of Hypatia lay open under candlelight, revealing equations that danced like fireflies between the realms of matter and spirit, a new veil lifted, exposing forgotten truths from Voltaire's own shadowed past, truths that deciphered not just from ancient scrolls, but from whispered archives unearthed in dusty Parisian attics. One such revelation twisted the narrative of Voltaire's birth, for while history proclaimed him the son of a notary, hidden letters from his godfather that hinted at a deeper intrigue, suggesting that his mother's early death was no mere illness, but a concealment of royal bloodlines tangled with the intrigues of Louis XIV's court, where illegitimate heirs were spirited away to avoid scandal. This enigma propelled deeper into the labyrinth of Voltaire's life, that the philosopher's exile to England was not merely for safety, but a calculated quest to retrieve a lost manuscript from Newton's own hands, a treatise on alchemies. Forbidden fusion with calculus, that Voltaire smuggled back disguised as mundane poetry amid the fog of the Channel. These discoveries wove mystery into the fabric of his education at the Jesuit school, where Young didn't just mock doctrines, but secretly decoded heretical texts, hidden in the library's false-bottomed shelves, passages from burned works that spoke of infinite universes echoing through time to challenge the Church's finite creation. As pored over these clues, a plot twist emerged from Voltaire's imprisonments in the Bastille not once, but twice, the first in 1717, for satirical verses against the regent, yet beneath the official tale lay a hidden purpose. His cellmate, the masked man to be the twin brother of Louis XIV, shared cryptic maps to Templar treasures, buried under the fortress walls gold, that Voltaire later used to fund his speculative fortunes in the lottery, and John Law's Mississippi scheme, amassing wealth that fueled his crusades against injustice rising. Tension built as traced Voltaire's adoption of his nom, plume and anagram, yes, but also a cipher invoking the ancient Roman god of rivers, symbolizing the flow of ideas that could erode tyrannical dams. This led to his English sojourn, where he absorbed not only liberty, but Quaker secrets of inner light tolerance, born from mystical visions in silent meetings that mirrored ancient Essene rituals from the Dead Sea shores. Upon return, he's burned at the stake by the hangman, yet copies proliferated through underground networks hinting at Voltaire's role in a clandestine society, perhaps the precursors to the Illuminati smuggling enlightenment like contraband wine. There became a nexus of discovery, wherewith he didn't just study Newton, but experimented with optics' prismatic anomalies that suggested hidden dimensions, portals glimpsed by ancient Egyptian priests in pyramid chambers. Her tragic death in 1749 birthed not only grief, but a spectral visitation in Voltaire's dreams, where she revealed a forgotten affair with a poet that bore a secret child, a lineage that now realized flowed through his own veins, making him Voltaire's hidden. Ere this climax shattered illusions, forcing to confront betrayals within for the reformed spy uncovered evidence of Voltaire's darker facets, his virulent masked in essays as critiques of superstition, yet rooted in personal vendettas against Jewish financiers who once swindled him, echoes of forgotten prejudices that tainted even the brightest minds. Yet redemption lay in Voltaire's later acts, his initiation into Freemasonry on April 7, 1778, in the Lodge of the Nine Sisters, where under Masonic rites he embraced symbols of universal brotherhood, drawing from Egyptian Ankh and Pythagorean geometry. The very mark on his palm glowed in recognition as he pieced together Voltaire's border-living habit, residing near frontiers like to evade censors, a strategic nomadism that allowed him to pen in mere weeks, satirizing optimism while embedding clues to surreal counterpart, a mythical South American utopia drawn from explorers' tales of gold, hidden from Spanish conquerors. The affair unfolded not just as justice, but a mystical turning point, where Voltaire's of the Protestant family exposed fanaticisms, veil revealing inquisitorial secrets tied to medieval witch hunts, forgotten trials, where innocence burned for heretical knowledge akin to Hypatia's fate, as age claimed him. Voltaire's correspondence with the great soured into satire, his epistolary novel mocking the Prussian king, yet hiding coded messages for future revolutionaries, inspirations that sparked 1789's flames. His death in 1778, amid adulation and priestly deceit, saw his body smuggled out of Paris to evade Catholic burial bans, only to be later a resurrection of sorts, but's journey resolved in a satisfying whisper as he buried the codex anew in gardens infused with Voltaire's essence that hidden stories. From his quick-witted retorts to strangers, his prolific output of over 50 plays and treatises, and his transformation of his own house, ironically, into a Bible-printing hub by the Geneva Society, perpetuated the enigma, a legacy where mystery and truth intertwined, forever guiding seekers through the mists of time toward enlightenment's eternal dawn. As the eternal dawn of enlightenment cast its gentle glow over the gardens of where had concealed the Codex of Hypatia, its secrets would bloom anew for future generations. A deeper layer of Voltaire's enigma unraveled through forgotten correspondences, unearthed from the philosopher's vast archives letters that whispered of his unyielding spirit amid personal tempests, for though history painted him as the witty scourge of tyrants, lesser-known shadows danced in his life like autumn leaves caught in a soft breeze. His mother Marguerite slipped away when he was but 7, not 10, as some tales erred, leaving a void that fueled his toward the heavens' cruel whims, and his father's stern hand pushed him toward law, yet young rebelled pennying verses that mocked the mighty even as a teen, earning him notoriety in Parisian salons, where whispers of scandal swirled like mist over the sane. One hidden story veiled in discretion was his incestuous bond with his niece known as Denise, a liaison that began after us. Passing in 1749, she, his housekeeper and confidant, shared his bed, in defying societal norms, a secret passion that echoed the forbidden loves of ancient myths like those of Oedipus, which he dramatized in his early play. Yet this personal mystery intertwined with his public crusades, for he never wed nor sired children. His life, a carousel of mistresses from the actress to the mathematician, each igniting his intellect and heart in equal measure, adding layers of human frailty to his towering legacy. Amid these intimacies, Voltaire's fortunes swelled not just from writings, but from shrewd ventures. He orchestrated a lottery win in 1729, exploiting a flaw in the French system, amassing riches that allowed him to live as a prince in exile, funding his battles against injustice, like the case where another Protestant family faced wrongful persecution. His campaigns, a quiet revolution sown in ink, and resolve yet deeper mysteries beckoned from his later years at where he established a watchmaking industry, employing hundreds, transforming the village into a haven of industry and tolerance. But hidden beneath the clinking gears lay of alchemical pursuits. Inspired by Newton's occult studies, Voltaire experimented in secret laboratories, seeking not gold, but the elixir of prolonged life, formulas whispered from ancient Persian texts that promised to defy mortality. His correspondence with the Great of Russia revealed another veiled truth, invitations to her court laden with coded ease for reform, where he praised her as an enlightened ruler, yet subtly critiqued her absolutism, embedding hints of democratic ideals drawn from England's parliament. In one forgotten anecdote, during a visit to Potsdam, where he overheard Prussian spies plotting against him, forcing a midnight escape through snowy forests, a twist that sharpened his satire in works like where giants from Sirius critiqued earthly follies, but wove in astronomical mysteries from comet sightings that echoed predictions, hinting at cosmic cycles that mirrored human tyranny's rise and fall. Tension mounted in his twilight as health faltered, plagued by ailments he masked with. Yet, in 1777, he pennied his last great in the affair of the Chevalier Labarre, a youth executed for blasphemy, exposing the church's barbarity in a climax of righteous fury that thinkers across Europe. His return to Paris in 1778 was no mere homecoming, but a triumphant procession where adoring crowds hailed him as the patriarch of philosophers. Yet amid the cheers lurked a final mystery, his initiation into Freemasonry mere weeks before death, in a lodge attended by Benjamin Franklin, where ancient rites of brotherhood invoked symbols from Egyptian obelisks, binding their visions of liberty in eternal pact. As Voltaire breathed his last, denying the priest's absolution, with a sly quip, his legacy unfolded like a river's gentle flow, inspiring the revolution that toppled kings and birthed republics. A man whose hidden stories of personal scandal, intellectual daring, and quiet philanthropies painted a portrait far richer than textbooks allowed. A seeker who unraveled life's veils, leaving behind a world awakened to reason's soothing light and the endless quest for truth's hidden gardens. As the soothing light of reason continued to permeate the hidden corners of Voltaire's enduring enigma, where pondered the buried codex ins verdant, embrace fresh revelations, emerged from the philosopher's lesser-trodden paths truths that whispered of a man whose life was a tapestry, woven with threads of audacity and quiet ingenuity, for beyond the grand satires and public crusades lay intimate quirks that humanized the icon, like his peculiar habit of rising at dawn to scribble verses in bed. Surrounded by a menagerie of pets, including a mischievous monkey, named that he claimed inspired his biting wit, echoing the ancient fables of Aesop, where animals unveiled human follies, one forgotten anecdote from his youth revealed a daring escapade, when as a budding poet, he impersonated a noble at a masked ball in Versailles, slipping into the Sun King's court to eavesdrop on royal secrets, whispers of alchemical pursuits among the aristocracy that later infused his critiques of superstition with knowing edge. Yet this boldness nearly cost him dearly. Unmasked by a vigilant guard, he fled through labyrinthine gardens under starlit skies, a twist that foreshadowed his lifelong dance with authority. Amid these personal mysteries, Voltaire's financial acumen shone brightly. Not content with pensions from kings, he orchestrated a masterful scheme in 1729, exploiting a flaw in the Paris lottery. Alongside mathematician Charles Ler, they pooled funds to buy undervalued tickets, amassing a fortune equivalent to millions today, a hidden windfall that funded his exile havens and philanthropic ventures, allowing him to champion the oppressed without beggaring himself. Yet deeper still lay his entrepreneurial spirit, in where from 1759 onward he transformed the sleepy hamlet into a bustling utopia, importing Swiss watchmakers to establish workshops that employed over 1,000 souls, crafting timepieces exported across Europe, a venture born not just from profit. Mystical fascination, with clocks as metaphors for the universe's mechanical precision, echoes of Newton's orrery that ticked away the illusions of divine caprice. This lesser-known facet revealed Voltaire as a builder of communities, a paternal figure who built churches for his Protestant workers. Despite his deism, tolerance flourished like spring blossoms in his domain. Tension simmered in these later years as rivals like Jean hurled accusations of hypocrisy, calling him a charlatan in their infamous feud. Yet Voltaire countered with sly pamphlets, exposing his abandonment of his children, a plot twist that turned public opinion, sharpening his of justice in affairs like the case where he exonerated a general wrongly executed for treason. His prolific output never waned, pennying over 2,000 letters in his era, corresponding with luminaries from the great to obscure scholars, each missive a vessel carrying seeds of enlightenment across borders. One enigmatic exchange with a Persian introduced him to Zoroastrian texts, ancient dualisms of light and dark that mirrored his own battles against fanaticism, infusing works like with Oriental mysteries, where fate twisted like a desert mirage, culminating in a garden of self-cultivation. As health ebbed in his 80s, plagued by urinary ailments, he masked, with he orchestrated his final act, returning to Paris, not as a frail elder, but a triumphant sage, crowned at the where his bust was adorned with laurels amid thunderous applause. Yet a final, hidden truth emerged from his deathbed, where denying extreme unction he quipped to the priest about not making enemies of the devil, a witty defiance that sealed his legacy. As the Enlightenment's irreverent torchbearer, his body spirited away to evade ecclesiastical bans, only to be reinterred during the Revolution, a resurrection befitting a man whose ideas ignited the flames of liberty, leaving behind a world where forgotten stories of his lottery hacks, watchmaking empires, and pet-inspired satires blended with grand philosophies to inspire eternal quests for truth's gentle unveiling. As the gentle unveiling of truth's hidden gardens persisted in the tranquil aftermath of Voltaire's legacy, where his ideas flowed like a serene river, nourishing the soil of human progress, delved further into the philosopher's enigmatic correspondences, unearthing letters that painted intimate portraits of a man whose daily rituals were as captivating as his grand philosophies. For Voltaire rose with the first blush of dawn in sipping coffee, laced with chocolate, a concoction he swore sharpened the mind like a whetstone. On a blade surrounded by stacks of books that towered like ancient monoliths, each volume a gateway to forgotten wisdom, from Aristotle's lost dialogues to Persian epics of eternal struggle, one lesser-known mystery, from his English exile whispered of a clandestine meeting with Alexander Pope in a fog-shrouded London tavern, where they exchanged verses encoded with Rosicrucian symbols, hints of a brotherhood, seeking to illuminate the world's shadows through poetry's veiled light, yet this alliance nearly unraveled when a rival scribbler accused Voltaire of plagiarism, sparking a literary duel of pamphlets that twisted public perception, until his sharp retorts restored his amid these intellectual skirmishes. His financial ingenuity bloomed anew, investing in colonial ventures, like the where he profited from spice trades that carried echoes of ancient Silk Road secret spices, said to hold alchemical properties for longevity, which he tested in private elixirs brewed under moonlit skies tension. Whispered through his haven, as religious censors circled like vultures, sensing his growing influence. Yet Voltaire countered with cunning, establishing a silk farm on his estate, employing local weavers to produce fabrics embroidered with subtle motifs of liberty symbols that adorn the gowns of enlightened courtiers across Europe, a hidden economy that funded his of the innocent, like the case where he exonerated a peasant, wrongly accused of sorcery, exposing judicial superstitions rooted in medieval grimoires. His voluminous output continued unabated crafting, in 1764, a portable arsenal of wit against dogma, where entries on Abraham veiled critiques of intolerance, drawing from ancient Hebrew texts that revealed tolerant patriarchs forgotten by fanatics. One enigmatic episode involved a visit from a young fleeing Venetian inquisitors who shared tales of libertine adventures intertwined with occult pursuits, Kabbalistic rituals in Prague that mirrored Voltaire's own flirtations. With mysticism infusing his novel, The White Bull, with biblical parodies that hid prophecies of revolutionary upheaval. As years waned, his correspondence with American colonists like Benjamin Franklin swelled with mutual admiration, exchanging ideas on deism and governance, seeds that blossomed in the Declaration of Independence. Yet a final twist emerged from his death's aftermath, when grave robbers attempted to steal his heart, preserved as a relic, only to find it missing, spirited away by disciples to a secret shrine, in where it symbolized the undying pulse of reason, leaving behind a legacy where hidden stories of coffee-fueled dawns, silk-woven rebellions, and alchemical brews blended seamlessly with his crusades for justice, inspiring souls to wander the serene paths of inquiry forevermore. As the serene paths of inquiry wound ever onward through the tranquil mists of Voltaire's legacy, West discoveries blended the philosopher's grand visions with the intimate whispers of his daily existence, fresh veils lifted from forgotten correspondences, revealing a man whose mornings in were rituals of quiet rebellion, awakening to the soft chirp of birds in his aviary, where exotic parrots from the Indies squawked phrases he taught them, mocking the pomposity of kings and clerics, alike one hidden anecdote from his Prussian sojourn unveiled a daring intrigue. When at court in Potsdam, he disguised himself as a servant to infiltrate a secret council, overhearing plots of expansion that echoed the ancient conquests of Alexander, yet twisted with Enlightenment ideals of merit. Over birthright this escapade, nearly exposed, when a guard's hound sniffed his unfamiliar scent, forcing a hasty retreat through castle corridors lit by flickering torches. Amid such adventures, his literary output flowed like a gentle stream, pennying the Sur in 1756, a sweeping history that traced humanity's progress from barbarism to civility, yet wove in veiled critiques of colonial atrocities, drawing from tales of Aztec mysteries, where pyramids held calendars predicting cycles of renewal and ruin. Tension simmered as personal losses mounted. The death of his beloved monkey in a tragic accident prompted a satirical elegy that hid deeper grief, a metaphor for the fragility of joy in a world besieged by absurdity, yet resilience shone through in his establishment of a pottery works at crafting ceramics, adorned with philosophical mottos, symbols of Earth's transformation, through fire echoing alchemical transmutations from Hermes. Emerald Tablet. One enigmatic encounter involved a wandering gypsy troupe encamping on his lands who shared Romany lore of star-guided fates prophecies that aligned with Voltaire's astrological curiosities, infusing his poem La with maidens of destiny who challenged divine right. As years softened his edges, his advocacy for vaccination against smallpox, a radical stance born from English observations, saved countless lives in Geneva, a hidden campaign where he anonymously funded inoculations defying church edicts that deemed it interference with gods. Will yet a plot twist emerged from his feud with the bishop of who excommunicated him, only for Voltaire to retort with a mock confession, exposing ecclesiastical hypocrisies that local peasants. His vast library at over 20,000 volumes, became a sanctuary for scholars, a nexus where ideas mingled like guests at a perpetual salon. One final mystery, whispered from his correspondence with the young then, where he offered veiled advice on tolerant seeds that might have tempered the revolution's fury had they taken root as twilight descended on his life. Voltaire's wit remained undimmed, quipping in his last letters about outliving his enemies, a satisfying coda to her existence that unraveled superstition's threads, leaving a tapestry of reason, tolerance, and human warmth for generations to wander in peaceful contemplation. As the peaceful contemplation of Voltaire's tapestry lingered in the soft glow of Saturnal gardens, where traced the final threads of the philosopher's enigmatic correspondences, unveiling letters that spoke of twilight reflections and unspoken dreams, fresh mysteries, bloomed from the quiet rhythms of his daily life. For in the hush of evening Voltaire would wander his estate's winding paths, lantern in hand, communing with the stars above, drawing inspiration from constellations that ancient astronomers like Ptolemy had as gateways to divine reason. One hidden story whispered of a nocturnal visitor, a cloaked figure from the Swiss cantons, who arrived under cover of darkness bearing manuscripts, smuggled from Jesuit archives, texts that revealed suppressed accounts of Galileo's trials, echoes of heliocentric truths that Voltaire wove into his dialogues, challenging the earth's centrality in a universe vast and indifferent. Amid these secretive exchanges, his horticultural passions flourished, planting orchards that yielded fruits infused with experimental grafts, hybrids, symbolizing the blending of ideas from distant lands, like the Persian apples, in that represented fate's capricious bounty. Yet tension stirred when a blight struck his vines, prompting an alchemical remedy brewed from ancient Roman recipes, unearthed in his library, a concoction that not only saved the harvest, but sparked of magical prowess among villagers who whispered of his pact with nature's hidden spirits. One enigmatic alliance formed with the botanist Carl through letters, where they exchanged seeds and classifications, embedding in Voltaire's writings metaphors of life's taxonomy, where humans, like plants, thrived in tolerant soils free from dogmatic weeds. His establishment of art became a stage for enlightenment, performing his own plays like that critiqued Crusader fanaticism, while hiding allusions to Templar legends of holy grails sought in vain as years cascaded like gentle rain. His advocacy for religious refugees, Huguenots fleeing persecution, found haven on his lands, a quiet sanctuary where tolerance bloomed like wildflowers, defying the edicts of intolerant kings. Yet a plot twist unfolded from a forged letter attributed to him inciting sedition that nearly sparked a raid on, only for Voltaire's network of informants to expose the forgery, turning peril into triumph. His vast epistolary web, over 20,000 letters, spun connections with figures like the encyclopedist Denis, collaborating on entries that smuggled subversive thoughts into bourgeois homes. One final veil lifted from his correspondence with the actress, his former muse, who shared stage secrets of illusion mirroring life's deceptions that he echoed in satirical voyages. As twilight deepened, Voltaire's quill slowed, yet his spirit soared in dreams of a world unchained, leaving a legacy where hidden nocturnal wanderings, botanical alchemies, and theatrical metaphors intertwined with his quests for justice, guiding wanderers through the calming mists of history toward reason's everlasting embrace. As the calming mists of history swirled ever so gently around the everlasting embrace of Voltaire's ideas, where lingered in the moonlit gardens of tracing the philosopher's final whispers through yellowed pages that fluttered like autumn leaves in a soft breeze, new revelations unfolded from the quiet corners of his existence, painting a portrait of a soul who found solace in the simplest rhythms of life. For during the golden hours of afternoon, Voltaire would retreat to his study overlooking Lake Geneva, where the water's serene ripple mirrored the calm he sought amid life's tempests. There he composed letters to distant friends like the Marquis visions of a future, where education liberated minds from ancient chain seeds that would sprout in revolutionary academies. One hidden tale emerged from a stormy night, when lightning cracked the sky, illuminating a forgotten chest in his attic containing juvenilia early poems, pennied in his Jesuit days verses that mocked not just priests, but the rigid hierarchies of heaven itself, echoing Gnostic rebellions from Nag scrolls that whispered of a flawed creator. Amid such discoveries, his passion for astronomy deepened, installing a telescope on his terrace to gaze at Jupiter's moon's discoveries that reinforced his belief in a clockwork universe, free from capricious gods, yet wove in mystical awe at the infinite expanse where ancient souls, perhaps reincarnated as stars, tension eased into as he nurtured his apiary tending bees whose honey sweetened his chocolate rituals, symbols of industrious harmony in nature's grand design, free from human despotism. One enigmatic guest, a traveling Armenian merchant, brought tales of Mount Secret's ancient manuscripts preserved in monasteries that spoke of pre-flood wisdom, aligning with Voltaire's critiques of biblical literalism, infusing his questions with queries that unraveled Genesis like a loosely knit sweater. His quiet philanthropy extended to founding a school for village children, teaching tolerance through fables, where animals' virtues over creeds, a hidden curriculum that shaped young minds toward reason's gentle light. Yet a soft plot twist whispered from his correspondence, with whose materialist philosophy sparked debates on soul's immortality. Voltaire, countering with deist sparks that illuminated the middle path as twilight years enveloped him in peaceful reflection. Voltaire's quill danced one last time in memoirs, fragments that revealed vulnerabilities, fears of oblivion softened by faith in humanity's progress, leaving a legacy where nocturnal stargazing betended harmonies and childhood verses intertwined with his lifelong quest for truth, guiding dreamers through the soothing veils of time toward enlightenment's eternal whisper. As the soothing veils of time draped themselves ever more tenderly over the eternal whisper of Voltaire's enlightenment, where sat in quiet reverence amidst blooming orchards, tracing the philosopher's lingering echoes through delicate fragments of correspondence that fluttered like butterfly wings in a summer breeze, new layers of serenity unfolded from the gentle cadence of his twilight existence. For in the hush of dawn, Voltaire would sip his morning brew, gazing across the lake's mirror-like surface, where swans glided, graceful arc symbols of purity amid a world he sought to cleanse of fanaticisms. Stains, one hidden memory surfaced from a letter to his faithful Denis, recounting a childhood dream of flying over Paris's rooftops, a vision that foreshadowed his lifelong aspiration to lift humanity above superstition's heavy chains. Amid such reflections, his love for music deepened, hosting chamber concerts in salon, where flutes and harpsichords wove melodies from opera's echoes of harmonious order in a universe governed by natural laws, yet infused with the soul's quiet yearning. Tension dissolved into as he tended his rose garden, pruning thorns with care, metaphors for removing society's prickly intolerances. One enigmatic parcel arrived from the Ottoman lands, containing coffee beans and a treatise on Sufi mysticism, whirling dervishes whose spins mirrored the planet's dance, inspiring Voltaire's meditations on divine immanence. Without dogma's rigid frame, his quiet support for women's Education shone through correspondence with the mathematician, even after her passing, encouraging young ladies to pursue sciences, a hidden legacy that seeded salons of intellectual equality. Yet a gentle plot twist whispered from his final illness, when fever dreams revisited England's green fields, when Newton's apple fell, revealing gravity's pull as love's invisible force binding souls across epochs. As days softened into peaceful surrender, Voltaire's last words murmured gratitude for life's garden cultivated despite weeds, leaving a legacy where dawn rituals, musical harmonies, and rose-pruned metaphors intertwined with his boundless quest for tolerance, guiding wanderers through history's calming embrace toward reason's everlasting bloom. As the everlasting bloom of reason's gentle light continued to unfurl across the tranquil landscapes of Voltaire's profound legacy, where lingered in thoughtful repose amid the whispering winds of ancient orchards, sifting through newly unearthed archives that revealed even deeper truths about the philosopher's multifaceted existence. Fresh insights emerged from lesser-known facets of his personal world, painting a richer portrait of a man whose habits and controversies added intricate shades to his enlightened brilliance. For though renowned for his towering intellect, Voltaire harbored private quirks that endeared him to those closest, like his fondness for lavish entertainments, at where he hosted grand dinners for guests numbering from 5 to 20, surrounded by a lively household that included horses, carriages, servants, and even cherished pets, such as a playful monkey, whose antics inspired his sharp satires, mirroring the animal fables of old that unveiled human vanities. One obscure revelation from private letters disclosed his shrewd financial mastery beyond mere writings, for in 1729 he cleverly exploited a flaw in the French lottery system, collaborating with mathematicians to secure enormous winnings that swelled his fortune, enabling him to live as a virtual prince, funding estates, industries, and acts of quiet generosity. Yet this wealth also sparked controversies, for his investments in colonial trades and sharp dealings drew whispers of opportunism amid the era's moral debates. Tensions subtly wove through his personal life, as well with relationships that convention his long, passionate affair with a brilliant mind, who matched his fervor for science and philosophy, lasting 16 years, until her tragic death in childbirth, leaving him grief-stricken, and later his intimate bond with his niece Denise, a secretive liaison that scandalized some, but reflected the libertine freedoms he championed in thought. Another veiled controversy lay in his complex views on Judaism, where certain writings veered into harsh critiques, often tied to his broader assaults on religious dogma, yet rooted in personal grievances against financiers who had wronged him, a facet that historians debate as inconsistent with his overarching pleas for tolerance, revealing the human contradictions, even in Enlightenment's brightest stars. Yet deeper research uncovered his entrepreneurial spirit, at where he not only pennied masterpieces, but revitalized the village, founding a thriving watchmaking industry that employed hundreds, crafting timepieces rivaling Europe's finest, a venture blending profit with philanthropy, as he built schools, churches, and homes, transforming a modest hamlet into a prosperous haven of industry and ideas. One hidden habit emerged from daily routines: his love of chocolate-laced coffee, sipped at dawn, fueling marathon writing sessions, where he produced thousands of letters, connecting him to Europe's intellectual web, from the great to emerging American thinkers, seeds of liberty that crossed oceans as age gently enveloped him in contemplative peace. Voltaire's campaigns for justice intensified, most notably the affair where he tirelessly advocated for a Protestant merchant, wrongly executed for murdering his son, exposing fanaticism's horrors and rallying Europe to overturn the verdict, a triumph that cemented his role as conscience of the age. Yet lesser known efforts extended to cases like and La Bar, defending the persecuted with pen and purse's years, a whirlwind of activity. Hosting visitors from to amid gardens, he tended personally, pruning roses as metaphors for cultivating society's virtues free from intolerance's thorns in his final chapters, a triumphant return to Paris in 1778 saw crowds acclaim him as Enlightenment's patriarch, his bust crowned with laurels at the yet health faltered, and on May 30 he passed denying priests full rights, with characteristic wit his body later enshrined in the symbolic resurrection during the Revolution. He helped inspire, leaving a legacy where personal eccentricities, financial acumen, pet-inspired whims, and controversial edges blended with unwavering quests for reason, justice, and human dignity, guiding seekers through history's soothing currents toward tolerance's eternal serene harbor. As the serene harbor of tolerance cradled the enduring echoes of Voltaire's multifaceted legacy, we wandered thoughtfully through the sun-dappled paths of restored estates, sifting through layers of historical dust that revealed even more intimate contours of the philosopher's extraordinary journey, deeper explorations unveiled nuances of his character that blended brilliance with profound humanity. For Voltaire was not merely the acerbic wit who skewered tyrants, but a man of deep affections who mourned losses with poetic intensity, like the death of his sister in 1720, a quiet sorrow that fueled his disdain for life's absurd cruelties, echoing the themes of relentless misfortunes. One lesser-known chapter illuminated his early diplomatic forays during the 1740s, when he served as a secret envoy between France and Prussia, navigating the great's volatile court with a mix of flattery and subtle critique, a delicate dance that earned him Chamberlain, yet soured into satirical barbs when royal waned, exposing the fragility of enlightened absolutism. Amid such intrigues, his scientific curiosity burned, brightly collaborating with on experiments in physics, measuring the heat of flames and light's properties, pursuits that echoed ancient Pythagorean harmonies, where numbers unlocked nature's serene secrets. Yet personal controversies shadowed these heights for his sharp tongue, and pen drew enemies from paranoid accusations to journalistic vendettas, a feud that spanned decades. With Voltaire funding counter-pamphlets to defend his tension, softly resolved in his sanctuary, where he became a benevolent patriarch, mediating village disputes, building roads, and draining marshes to combat malaria, a practical enlightenment that improved lives beyond abstract treatises. His vast correspondence, a lifeline to the world, connected him to figures like the young Horace exchanging views on history cycles, or the Agging, whose longevity inspired Voltaire's own vigorous old age. One hidden generosity emerged in his anonymous aid to struggling writers, pensions sent discreetly to preserve their dignity, a quiet counter to the era's patronage humiliations. Yet deeper still lay his theatrical passion, directing plays in his private, with professional flair costumes, and sets rivaling Paris stages, where he revived classics, while premiering his own works like in his final year, a triumphant echo of youthful dramas, as health gently declined, soothed by opiates and the care of Denis. Voltaire reflected on a life richly lived, quipping about his prolific output, over 14,000 known letters, and countless unpublished fragments, a torrent of thought that reshaped Europe's conscience. His death on that spring evening in 1778 marked not an end, but a beginning, as his ideas fueled revolutions from France to America, institutions of learning, and the slow erosion of intolerance, leaving behind a legacy where diplomatic whispers, scientific flames, theatrical lights, and quiet kindnesses intertwined with his thunderous calls for justice, guiding humanity through history's tranquil waters toward reason's boundless peaceful horizon. As the boundless peaceful horizon of reason stretched serenely across the annals of human thought, where traced the philosopher's final luminous trails through the whispering archives of timeless sanctuary, deeper contemplations revealed the subtle harmonies of Voltaire's inner world, a realm where intellect danced with profound sensitivity, for though he wielded satire like a gentle yet piercing breeze, Voltaire harbored a tender heart that wept for the world's injustices, composing elegies for fallen friends like the actress whose untimely death in 1730 denied Christian burial, sparked his lifelong crusade against clerical cruelty. One intimate revelation from private journals disclosed his ritual of evening walks along the murmuring banks, where moonlight silvered the waters, inspiring meditations on mortality's soft veil, echoes of ancient Stoic philosophers who found solace in nature's eternal rhythm. Amid such quietude, his fascination with history deepened, compiling the Annals, a chronicle of holy Roman emperors that subtly undermined divine right monarchies by exposing the absurdities of power's pageantry, yet wove in admiration for tolerant rulers like Henry IV, whose Edict of Nantes he celebrated as a beacon of harmony. Tension melted into, as he nurtured friendships with younger thinkers like the whose visits brought lively debates on economic seeds of laissez-faire that influenced emerging nations across the Atlantic. One hidden benevolence surfaced in his discreet funding of orphanages near Geneva, supporting children of all faiths, a silent testament to his deist belief in universal goodness, free from doctrinal divides. His library, a treasure trove of over 6,000 volumes, became a pilgrimage site for seekers, where rare editions of, and mingled with forbidden tracts from infusing conversations with layers of skeptical wisdom. Yet a gentle twist emerged from his correspondence with the blind encyclopedist Maria, whose musical genius inspired reflections on senses. Beyond sight, mirroring enlightenment's illumination of darkened minds, as twilight gracefully enveloped his days, Voltaire's quill captured fragments of autobiography, revealing boyhood pranks at Louis Grand and youthful ambitions that blossomed into a lifetime of defiant creativity. His passing in that Parisian spring, not a dimming, but a radiant dispersal of sparks that ignited revolutions, reforms, and the quiet evolution of human rights, leaving a legacy where riverside meditations, historical harmonies, and orphan-aided kindnesses intertwined with his thunderous advocacy for liberty, guiding souls through history's soothing embrace toward tolerance's infinite, gentle dawn. As the infinite, gentle dawn of tolerance bathed the vast expanse of human aspiration in its soft, radiant glow, where rested in serene contemplation beneath ancient oaks, whose branches whispered secrets carried on the breeze from centuries past. Deeper harmonies resonated from the philosopher's innermost sanctum, unveiling the quiet symphonies of Voltaire's soul. For in the stillness of midnight hours, he would often pen verses not for publication, but for the sheer joy of creation, lines that celebrated the beauty of a dewdrop on a leaf, or the fleeting dance of fireflies, metaphors for life's ephemeral yet luminous moments. One tender revelation emerged from a bundle of letters tied with faded ribbon, addressed to his long-lost childhood friend, the confiding dreams of a world where reason and kindness reigned without the shadows of persecution. Echoes of Platonic ideals reborn in modern garb. Amid such private musings, his devotion to animals deepened beyond the famous monkey to a succession of loyal dogs whose grave he marked with simple stones in his garden testaments, to fidelity in a realm often betrayed by human ambition, yet wove gentle lessons on compassion, free from sentimental excess. Tension flowed into peaceful resolution as he corresponded with the naturalist, exchanging observations on species variation, seeds of evolutionary thought that anticipated later discoveries. One hidden act of mercy surfaced in his quiet intervention to save a young deserter from execution, pleading with authorities in the name of humanity's shared frailty. His home, a perpetual haven for exiles, thinkers, and artists fleeing intolerance, where conversations drifted late into the night, beneath candlelight's warm flicker, debating everything from comets' trails to the soul's quiet endurance. Yet a soft, luminous twist illuminated his final months when, despite pain, he dictated letters of encouragement to struggling reformers. Them that light always pierces darkness as gently as dawn caresses the horizon. His spirit, undimmed by bodily frailty, radiating the same fire that had ignited Europe's conscience as the spring of 1778 unfolded into eternity. Voltaire slipped away not in anguish, but in tranquil acceptance, surrounded by those who cherished his wit and wisdom, leaving behind a legacy where midnight verses, animal companions, and merciful interventions intertwined with his monumental of truth, guiding wanderers through the soothing currents of time toward enlightenment. Boundless serene embrace, where every heart beats in harmony with reason's everlasting song. As the everlasting song of reason resonated in the quiet chambers of eternity, where lingered beneath starlit canopy, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves that carried Voltaire's voice across the age's deeper serenities, unfolded from the philosopher's most intimate reveries, unveiling a soul that found profound peace in the simplest wonders of existence. For in the velvet hush of twilight, he would often sit by his fireplace, its flames dancing like ancient storytellers, weaving tales of light triumphing over shadow, while he a quiet pipe, reflecting on friendships that spanned continents and centuries. One tender echo surfaced from a forgotten notebook, where Voltaire sketched dreams of universal harmony gardens, where philosophers of every creed strolled together beneath olive branches, symbols of peace, drawn from biblical groves, yet freed from dogmatic thorns. Amid such visions, his affection for children deepened, inviting village youngsters to his estate stories of distant lands and stars above, kindling sparks of curiosity that would illuminate future generations, free from fear's heavy yoke. Tension dissolved completely into boundless calm as he exchanged final letters with old companions, like entrusting the spirit to younger hands. Enlightenment's flame passed gently onward. One hidden serenity revealed itself in his practice of quiet gratitude each evening, noting small joys. A letter received, a flower bloomed, or injustice righted, acts that grounded his vast intellect in humanity's shared warmth. Is a living poem where watchmakers' rhythmic ticks mingled with birdsong and laughter, creating a symphony of tolerant coexistence that needed no creed to sanctify. Yet a final luminous glow emanated from his parting thoughts, whispered to Denny's of contentment, with a life devoted to cultivating his garden, both literal and metaphorical, leaving seeds of reason that sprouted revolutions, reforms, and the slow, beautiful awakening of minds across the world. His spirit not extinguished, but diffused like morning mist, rising to embrace the sun, guiding every seeker through history's tranquil embrace toward the infinite gentle harmony, where tolerance, reason, and kindness forever bloom in everlasting peaceful. As the infinite gentle harmony of tolerance and reason enveloped the world in its timeless soothing embrace, where closed his eyes beneath's whispering canopy, allowing Voltaire's spirit to drift like a soft summer cloud across the vast sky of human memory. Deeper peace descended upon the legacy of this extraordinary soul, revealing the quietest, most luminous truths of a life devoted to light. For in the final hush of his earthly journey, Voltaire found solace not in grand declarations, but in the simple act of breathing the crisp alpine air, gazing at the eternal snows of that stood sentinel over his haven, reminders of nature's majestic indifference, yet profound beauty. One last tender whisper emerged from the ether, a vision shared in his parting hours with Denny's of a world where gardens flourished without borders, minds wandered freely beneath starlit vaults, and hearts beat in unison with compassion's gentle rhythm. Amid this serene vision, his influence flowed onward like a tranquil river, nourishing distant shores, inspiring the framers of constitutions, the poets of liberty, and the quiet reformers who chipped away at injustice's ancient stones with patient persistence. Tension long dissolved into pure luminous calm as generations carried his flame forward through revolutions that birthed republics, declarations that proclaimed universal rights, and slow, beautiful awakenings where superstition's shadows receded before reason's dawn. His an eternal symbol of what one determined spirit could achieve, transforming wilderness into prosperity, intolerance into welcoming arms, and despair into hopeful cultivation. Yet the deepest serenity lay in the knowledge that Voltaire's garden continues to grow, tended by countless unseen hands across time. Every act of kindness, every of truth, every moment of tolerant understanding, a bloom in the vast living tapestry. He helped weave his spirit, not confined to history's pages, but alive in the gentle breeze that rustles leaves in thoughtful minds. Soft laughter of children learning freely, the quiet courage of those who speak against fanaticism, leaving humanity forever enriched by his boundless, gentle legacy, where reason, tolerance, and human warmth forever dance in everlasting peaceful, beneath the infinite sky of enlightenment's soothing eternal light. As the boundless serene embrace of enlightenment's light continued to cradle the world in its tender infinite glow, where drifted into a peaceful slumber beneath's ancient boughs dreaming of Voltaire's garden, eternally blooming with flowers of reason and compassion, the philosopher's spirit lingered like the softest morning mist, rising gently to mingle with the eternal sky, carrying whispers of hope to every corner of humanity. For in this timeless harmony, his words and deeds became living breezes that cooled the fevered brows of nations, stirred by strife, guiding them toward shores where tolerance reigned supreme and justice flowed like clear mountain streams. One final luminous vision, unfolded in the quiet depths of eternity, a world slowly awakening to the beauty of free thought, where libraries opened their doors to all gardens invited wanderers of every belief and hearts, learn to listen before judging echoes of simple wisdom, cultivating one's own patch of earth, with kindness and curiosity amid this. Everlasting peace, Voltaire's laughter, a gentle, joyful sound, echoed through the ages reminding us that reason need not be cold, but can warm the soul like sunlight on spring soil. His battles won not through force, but through the patient, persistent light of truth that dissolves shadows without violence, tension, long transformed into pure harmonious calm as generations upon generations tended the vast shared garden. He helped envision planting seeds of inquiry, harvesting fruits of understanding, and the bounty with open hands is no longer a single place, but a symbol woven into the fabric of human progress, a beacon for all who seek to live thoughtfully, kindly, and freely beneath the infinite canopy of stars, where every mind is a unique bloom contributing to the world's breathtaking beauty. And in this soothing, eternal dance of ideas and empathy, Voltaire's legacy lives on not as a monument of stone, but as a living, breathing melody of liberation that lulls the spirit into profound, restful wonder, inviting every dreamer to close their eyes, drift into tranquil slumber, and awaken renewed in the gentle, everlasting light of reason's boundless, peaceful dream. As the boundless, peaceful dream of enlightenment's light cradled every wandering soul in its tender, eternal embrace, where the garden of Voltaire's vision stretched infinitely across the horizons of time, blooming with endless varieties of thought and kindness that invited all to rest beneath its shady bowers. The philosopher's gentle presence lingered like the faintest fragrance of roses, carried on a summer evening's breeze, soothing weary minds into the deepest, most restorative slumber, for in this everlasting serenity his words became lullabies whispered by the wind through rustling leaves, reminding us that the cultivation of our own small corners of the world with patience and care brings the truest happiness amid life's fleeting storms. One ultimate tranquil vision unfolded in the velvet depths of night, a cosmos where every star shone as a beacon of reason, every river sang of tolerance, and every heart beat softly in rhythm with compassion's quiet melody, gardens without end, where children laughed freely, thinkers dreamed unbound, and the shadows of fanaticism dissolved forever into dawn's gentle glow. Tension long faded into pure infinite calm, as humanity drifted onward guided by the soft glowing embers of Voltaire's legacy, through ages of discovery and understanding, where revolutions of the spirit unfolded not with thunder, but with the silent beauty of awakening minds, is transformed into every welcoming hearth, every open library, every quiet park bench, where strangers shared ideas beneath dappled sunlight. And in this soothing eternal symphony of human progress, Voltaire's spirit smiled serenely, knowing that the seeds he planted continue to sprout in countless hearts, blooming into forests of empathy and wisdom that shelter all who seek refuge from the world's occasional tempests, inviting every listener to close their eyes, now breathe deeply, and gently surrender to the peaceful currents of sleep, carried safely on the timeless wings of reason's most tender dream where tomorrow awaits. Renewed with possibility and grace drifting into the calmest deepest, rest beneath the infinite gentle sky of enlightenment's everlasting lullaby. As the everlasting lullaby of enlightenment's gentle light wrapped the world in its final tender caress, where every garden bloomed eternally with the flowers of reason tolerance and quiet human kindness, the philosopher's spirit rose softly like the last star fading into dawn, leaving behind a world forever transformed by his patient persistent glow. For in this ultimate serene closure Voltaire's voice became the whisper of wind through endless leaves, inviting all to rest now in the profound peaceful certainty that truth once spoken never truly fades, but lives on in every act of courage, every moment of understanding, every gentle breath, drawn in freedom's open-air tension, long surrendered to infinite harmonious calm, as the vast shared garden of humanity flourished under countless caring hands, revolutions of the heart, unfolding with the beauty of blooming dawn, where minds awaken not in strife, but in the quiet joy of discovery, and hearts opened wide to embrace the shared wonder of existence is no longer bound by time or place, but woven eternally into the soul of progress, a sanctuary for every seeker, every dreamer, every weary, who pauses to cultivate their own small patch of earth with love and care. And in this soothing final embrace of history's most luminous chapter, Voltaire's legacy settles, like the softest snowfall, blanketing the world in pure tranquil whiteness, inviting you now, dear listener, to let go completely, breathe deeply, and gently drift into the deepest, calmest sleep, carried forever on the timeless wings of reason's most tender eternal dream, where peace reigns supreme and tomorrow awakens bright with gentle possibility. Good night, rest well, and know that the light of understanding will always guide you home. This mysterious journey ends here, but stay tuned for more untold stories in our next video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Thank you.